All right. Well, excellent work, Lane. Once again, everybody's just so impressed by what you came up with. It's going to make it much easier just to start filling in the blanks. I think we ought to start with an update on what we talked about last week. I believe Alan and Nick were going to talk to some folks and collaborate on video drone stuff. Did we make any headway on that, Alan?
Okay, I'm back. I did get to talk to Ed Lowe a little late in the week, but he is definitely on board with us for doing any of the drone work. I hate saying drone, it's a quadcopter. And I've Nick and I were not able to connect, although we exchanged some emails here today. It's been a week for me, and it's been a week for him too. So crazy. So there are some cravats that Ed Lowe told me about, some little gotchas that I didn't realize, and I find rather amusing. Because Ed and I were talking about what kind of angles and things that we would want, or Ed would need to be able to. I mean, Nick would need to be able to do these 3D drawings and stuff. And and Ed was like, well, what kind of angle? And the thing of it is Ed has found out, and now I know, that evidently the DJI drones have a little bad habit. They can't see water real well. And if they're too close to the water, in other words, less than 20 to 30 feet above the water, they may all of a sudden decide that, oh, they're way too high, and dive right into the water.
Oh, ouch.
Ouch is a major. Yeah, so evidently some people.
Major expensive.
Yeah, the major expensive. So evidently some people have lost their units because of that. It's because the optical system can't resolve the water. So he said it would be really nice if we had a boat around while we were doing it, and that Ed and I assume Chris, i.e. boat, would be at the ready in case the thing decides to take a nosedive. So anyway, but yeah, he's willing. And we were talking about when, and I said, well, probably our best bet would be would have been -0 tides, but the lowest tide that we can possibly get. Nick needs to give some input. I mean, straight downs are easy, but we need to know what kind of range we want to do and stuff. So I'm thinking we just we'll need good weather and a low tide. And if we can get with you, Chris, and have a little bit of a boat ride, that would be good. Ed has bought some flotation units for the drone. But I don't know, he didn't have them installed on the unit as of the other day when I talked to him, but he's putting them on there. So that's not a good thing to lose. So that's where we're at. We're just going to need some better ideas from Nick on what kind of angles and things he would like to superimpose on.
Unfortunately, this time of year, tides, the low tides are all at like 30 and like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. So we'll just have to do with what we can get.
And the day lows are not that low. They're like +5s, +6s. It's just it's really
so that's basically all I have for right at the moment. And we'll have to look at the weather report and see what we can coordinate. weather versus tides versus your availability, Chris,
Yeah.
and of course Ed's.
I'm pretty
I can-
open, so
Yeah. And I have a boat and can take people out in it too. It's pretty seaworthy and it can get in pretty close to shore. It's aluminum.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if Chris is unavailable, I could do it, but I won't be here in December. But
Right.
I don't think you're going to get any decent tides in December.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I have without Nick, because I don't, if he comes on later, he can say something more about what he's thinking.
okay. Well, Mary, what'd you guys come up with this week?
I didn't come up with very much of anything. I really didn't have all the stuff that I needed to do stuff very well. So I'm a bad girl. So sorry.
Well, I figured you
No
didn't
worries.
have, figured you didn't have bandwidth on the boat, and I realized you
Yeah.
were on the boat all week, so that didn't.
Yeah. And I can use my cell phone, but it has to be pretty high tide and the bandwidth is really slow using the cell phone with the computer. It's just like, it takes forever to download stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, so Nick is here. Are you?
Yep, I made it.
Okay.
I
I
gave
was
up on
just.
the computer.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I think I've got my audio working this time. Zoom put in an update, and I think that helped the situation here. I told them that I had talked to Ed and Ed Lowe, and that he had cautions on depending on what angles that you want photos in. And he would very much like for us to be out in the water with a boat, because as it turns out, the DJI Mavics and that series have a nasty little habit because they do an optical altitude and stuff. And if they don't, all of a sudden don't see the water, they will just say, oh, I'm too high, and dive right into it, which is not nice. And Ed's putting flotation units on his unit right now to help with that issue. But he's probably going to want to know, and we were talking about, angles and stuff. And I said, well, I'm not quite sure, maybe 30 to 45 degree, depends on what you need for based on what rendering you want to do. But I figured we could, a bunch, you and I and either Chris or Mary, because Chris and Mary both have boats, could get out there with Ed, and that'll make him more comfortable, because if it does dive, he can retrieve it, because he doesn't have a boat. Ed doesn't have a boat. And then you can direct on your vision of what you're going to do with the 3D modeling as to what image you want to superimpose on.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. It's not quite as important for me to lock in a perfect image. It really, whatever looks the best from the air, I can make the model. I can drag it into the orientation that represents that perspective.
Right. Yeah.
So it could be a straight on, it could be a 45, it could be a bird's eye view. No matter what, the 3D model can be oriented to the image that we get. So,
right.
But I'm happy to lend an eye, yeah.
I was thinking, I was talking to Ed. I said, probably at least a top-down view, to be sure, and then, like I said, some side angles. And I'm thinking, since the odds are that the dock would be an L shape, was what I'm thinking, and the L would come out from the beach access area somehow, and then the L would go towards the ferry. Maybe to get the best views would become like being like near the shoreline, shooting into that area. I don't know. It's just a thought. But that's
Sure.
where I was thinking about, you know, what kind of angles you want and stuff like that, and what we want to best present.
Yeah.
And what would be the advantage of an L-shaped dock?
I don't know, but if it is an L shape, I think
Chris?
I would think it would
Chris,
go that way.
You're muted, Chris.
You can just push
All
your
right.
face.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's not get mired down in details
No.
about the design of the dock yet. Let's move
Mhm.
on to what we need to do next. And Lane has done a bunch of work this week, obviously. Anything else new other than what we've talked about so far?
Let me just ask a question, because as I'm not a queen of Photoshop, but I'm reasonably familiar with it. Is your concern about getting the pictures at low tide? It's not that you're trying to capture the actual surface, are you? Are you trying to, what's the reason for wanting low tide?
It helps show the rock formations that are there.
You can,
Honestly, I'm just kind of wondering, faking it with Photoshop.
well, yeah, you can look at the color in the water,
Mhm.
and from an overhead shot, you can tell where shallow spots are. You can also sometimes tell where the rocks are, and also where algae is, like seaweed
Mhm.
and eelgrass and stuff like that. So when you're looking downward at a lower tide, you're looking through less water to block
Right.
the bottom contours.
Yeah, I'm just trying to determine in terms of time delay, waiting until we had low tide versus we're not trying to represent any engineering.
No.
Mhm.
Right.
No.
We're just trying to say,
You're
this
just
is
trying.
where, this is what.
The idea is to get the best possible representation of the issues
Mhm.
that would be there. I mean, the optimum would have been for us to do this at -0 tides, but that time has passed, because it would show the rock formations and stuff. But I mean, we have some aerials already. Is sharing on?
It will be in just a second. There you go. You have it.
Okay,
Yeah.
just to clarify. So we have this, which is the,
Right.
so this gives some indication, but we also have,
That one that Mike Skihan sent was
well,
excellent.
what he sent, we already had, and it came from
Mhm.
us, in fact,
Mhm.
which is like,
Yeah.
huh? I don't know why he did that, but it was literally from us. I'm trying to get this stupid thing. This menu bar is right in my way. There we go. Okay. So let's pull this. Hold on a second. But if you here, eelgrass survey.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
the link Mike sent us was the link on our page. I'm
Okay.
like, what? Didn't understand. And hopefully somebody responded to him. That email goes out automatically to both of you.
Mhm.
Somebody needs to respond to him.
I did.
Okay. Where is it? They're way down here. We cannot use these images commercially, however.
Right.
The where is that one that I'm looking for? There's one of these.
That's the
here.
one.
This is the one. So this right here, that's the deck area for the beach access.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the original dock went out somewhere in here. But so this is not too bad either. I mean, we got, but if we can get a shot like this, if we can get some good daylight, get a good down shot, I think it's enough. And then give like a 35 or 45 degree view. I think from this here, shooting this way, and then do another one from like over here this way, and then one from here this way at a lower angle. That'll be probably enough for us for us to work with.
Yeah. The other thing that I think would be pretty important is to make it scalable.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how that is done, but I think that
Well,
you just need some kind of references that, you know, I guess maybe you could measure the size of that deck and then
Yeah.
use that for your scaling or something.
Yeah, and as long as we get a really high resolution picture, you know, people can zoom in, zoom out, whatever with it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that using the deck as a scale, and putting a scale image on the photo will work just fine.
Yeah, because I think that's real important.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Well, let's move on then to filling in the PowerPoint slides, aren't they, Lane? Is that what you did?
Hmm.
Yes.
So the way I was approaching it in my mind, can we split it up and everybody take a square and start filling in stuff, or how do you think we should do it? What do you guys think?
That could work, or we could just get ideas and generate ideas for what we think as a group. We could just try to just do a little group brainstorming on some of the key points that we want to fill in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do
Since
that.
we have 5 beautiful brains here.
Mm.
So just go one by one, the slides, and start throwing out stuff. Is that what you're thinking, Mary?
That's what I kind of was thinking. I don't know. What do other people think?
I do think it's easier to chunk it, to break it down, and probably just collectively go through it. My question is actually a little from a slightly different angle, and that is, what do we need to do to get more input from the community before we can proceed? Well, I don't say can proceed, but before this gets too much further, I want us to make sure we have prioritized that, because I think in the end, it will benefit us, even if it causes some delay, to get more buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm willing to work on that, but I am having trouble coming up with how to write the questions. And so I need to work as a team on that with somebody or some buddies.
Why don't you just slap down some ideas of questions,
Okay.
and then, you know, one, like you and I have done in the past, you just get a start. And Lane, you might have some as well. Just slap those down, and I can always see if I can get Lee to like do the polish for the public.
Okay.
Because he
Okay.
keeps asking me for things that I need.
So from what I was thinking, you meant, Alan, last week, talking about setting up the survey page.
Mhm.
We can show pictures of what.
Yep. Oh yeah.
On, right?
Yep. Yeah, we can do all sorts of stuff with that. It's just a matter of making sure that we need to know what we want. The way normally I approach surveys is what's the result you want out of it, and then work it backwards. then ask, and by that, you then have to ask the right questions. And then from that, you also have to give the public the right information to come up with an answer. So it's having some questions that we want answered is like the first step. You know, what do we want answered from the public? You know, what are those questions? And then we can work it backwards from that. But yeah, we can ask open level, we can ask multiple choice, we can ask yes, no's, you name it.
Ranking.
We can do. Ranking is, no.
Well, I mean, you can phrase it. If you have a single choice and this is what's your most first choice, and the next one is what's your second choice, what's your third choice.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's ways. I've had
Yeah,
systems.
there's ways we can do it. It
Yeah.
just, this particular system doesn't have the ranking boxes where you put number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, you know, that kind of thing. It's not quite that complex, but it's better on so many other features. That's why I went with this one. But yes, we can do a ranking setup. We just have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Got it.
Yeah. But
So
the
question-
important thing is, what do we want to ask? What do we want in the way of answers?
So I'll throw out a question in my mind, which I would want to know if, you know, if the committee was doing this and saying, hey, we need input. The first question I would want to be asked is, would I support a public doc of some type? Simple, straightforward. Am I willing to give my support to getting that established somehow, some way? I want to just know how many people on the island are actually in support of us pursuing a public doc on the island.
Now, the thing would be, though, I think we would need to define what we're talking about with that. Are
To the
we
extent
talking?
that we can, right?
Yeah, right.
Because ultimately,
the-
it's going to come down to the park department and their planning guys and their ultimate vision of what they think they can do or get away with, or
Yeah,
what they want to do. Ultimately,
Yeah.
once again, it's back in the government's hand at that point, and
right.
we're kind of out of loop. We want public access. We want a dock, whatever that might exactly look like. Well, we'll see. But
Right. And one
is
way,
that a starting-
yeah, but one way you can handle that is you can say that, let's say, item number 1 would be, and this is bad wording, but you know, yes, I support a doc, but if we defined first, okay, the doc can be in different forms. The first form might be it's just for short-term mooring, like on and off type thing. That's one type of dock, public dock. Another is, okay, long-term mooring, right? Because people will have different opinions based on what we're talking about in mooring time. And then you work through those, and then your last one would be, no, I'm not, I don't want anything. So, which is a reasonable answer as well. But I think we have to give them some choices of the types of things we're thinking about, so that we're not talking about a marina.
Mhm.
And we need to do some definition. And the definition can be on the page preceding the survey. So that we define what it is we're talking about, that we're not talking a marina, because there's no space for that, because it ain't deep enough. At least that I would think. And then, okay, then if it's just a dock for short-term mooring, what kinds of uses are we talking about? And then ask the question. Because if you just ask the question, people have different perceptions of what that means. So we have to define what we're talking about.
So Mary, are you and Alan gonna take that up then and work on that? Is that what I'm hearing?
I can, yeah.
We
Anybody
can,
else want to work on questions with me? for a survey question?
I can do that.
I mean, we can do a little
Okay, Dave.
video. We can do a little video conference offline of the board meeting. God,
Mhm.
of the committee meeting, you know, I can actually template it up live while we're talking, so everybody can see. That's what Mary and I do a lot of. Is she'll just give me a guess, and then I'll in live time I'll format it and we'll look at it and say, oh, okay, that looks okay, and then move on. So it's fairly easy process. But the important thing would be getting definitions first.
Mhm.
Like I say, so the public knows what types of things we're talking about.
Yeah,
So I have a question related to that. And, you know, we talked about a month ago about having a public Zoom meeting to discuss where we've come so far. Alan, from your experience with surveys, do you feel like it would be better to have that meeting before you ran a survey?
I'm going to say yes and no. Here's what I think needs to happen first. I think we need to have on our page definitions of the types of docs we are talking about.
Mhm.
Because otherwise we'll spend 90% of the meeting just battling questions on that.
Okay.
I think we need to have that definition done. Those definitions need to be on the survey page, but they also need to be on the main page. That we're not talking marina, to my knowledge. And these are the other types of docs we're talking about, and the use cases. Like, you know, I think early on Mary was talking, or somebody was talking about, you know, okay, you got a come and go type thing, you know, get groceries, that kind of stuff. Or you've got, you know, do you want to do it, limit it just to that as a suggestion to the Parks and Recreation, because they're the final say. Or do we want to suggest that, okay, come and go, you know, for that, just quickie stuff, but also limited numbers of longer term moorage, but not a month type thing. We need to define what types of things we're talking about. And if we can define those in writing before we do a meeting or a survey, I think we'll be in a lot better shape.
So I have a question. So I don't remember this offhand because I haven't used them in some time. Mary, maybe you know, like the county dock at East Sound and maybe the dock. I don't know about the county dock. I know you can overnight at the Olga dock. But if we look, for example, at some of the other docks around the San Juans, I think our intent was very transient moorage, right? Come and go, pick up people, maybe even no overnight moorage. But I guess my question is, what is in place at other state park or county park docks? I mean, because there's a precedent there, right? So
yes,
I'm not opposed to overnight moorage per se. Some people might be. But can we actually restrict it to just, I don't know, several hours? I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
you can. There's, if you think about the different docks, there is the one at Hunter Bay. That's a county dock. And they have places for, you can tie up your dinghy there and go for a walk or go to the store. It's right next to their launch ramp, so the locals can launch their boat and then tie up there to load and unload and stuff like that. Sometimes locals do have their boats there overnight, but they do sometimes have commercial boats that come in there that drop off people. And so they have like an area that is just like, you know, loading and unloading only. And a lot depends on how many feet long this dock is going to be.
Mhm.
You know, that's
Right.
that's really
Yeah,
gonna be crucial to it.
but I think we as an advisory committee, I think need to work it the other way around. Don't think about
Mhm.
how long it's going to be. Tell the county, these are the kinds of things the islanders are interested in having when it comes to a dock. Let
Mhm,
them worry about the size, the shape, all that stuff. But
mhm.
I think we as an advisory committee, we need to be pulling this data out of the air for the county just to be able to start with. So she has something to present with, you know, besides the drawings and, you know, conceptual type stuff. So I wouldn't worry about the length. I'd say, are you in favor of, you know, and have these definitions, short term of this amount of time, um, multi-hour, overnight, you know what, I don't know all the right verbiage for this. I'm not a mariner.
Yeah. And most of your state park docks restrict, I think you have 3 days max that they will let you be at the state park dock. It's either 2 days or 3 days,
Mhm.
So
but
look,
they've got,
our goal, I think, when we set out on this project, right, was to enable access to pick up people and transport them across.
Mhm.
So I have a suspicion, I guess from some of the things I've heard, that some islanders might be resistant to having boaters come and hang out for, I don't know, periods of time, days, whatever. So I guess my question to this group is, do we want to just focus on short-term moorage? I'm talking hours, you know, come and go. And that's what it is.
I
You know,
I think it's unfair to not ask all the questions.
no, I agree. I
Mhm.
definitely agree, Alan. And I, like I said, I'm not opposed to having overnight access, that kind of thing. But if there's pushback, I guess what I'm saying is, at a minimum, what I thought we were setting out to do was to build a dock that will allow boaters to come and go and pick up people in times of need
Right.
and get them across. And
True.
beyond
True.
that, it's a bonus, right? So
Yes.
whatever, if there's resistance to some long-term mortgage, then we could back off from that. But I think you're right. A poll would help answer those questions.
Yeah. And I think one of the poll questions is, are you in favor of a dock that, yes, from Chris.
like that, Chris.
Yeah,
I'm just starting to throw out some questions that. I think
absolutely, absolutely. Not the best place for them because it doesn't,
Oh, I've got it.
you got it? Okay.
Yeah.
But what I think our first top thing should be, do you support the concept of having a dock for load and unload in urgent need situations, and define what that means? Start with the most important thing that we're interested in, because there may be people who will say, no, I don't even want that. You know, it's possible. And for us to do due diligence, we have to ask that kind of a question. I think and if we have it as so you can do multiple choice, that yes, I'm for this, I'm for this, I'm for this, and I am not for that.
Yeah.
We can handle that kind of question. But I think we put at the top the urgent needs issue that started this whole thing. Make sure that people understand that and are for that. The more people that we have saying, yes, I'm for that, that helps with the case for Parks and Recreation to start the process.
Yeah.
And then have the other scenarios further down that, okay, I'm also for, beyond that, short-term on and off for like going to shopping trips and stuff like that to the island or to get supplies. You know, you don't have to say the islander, but getting supplies on and off. And then, okay, longer dock times, like pick a wild number, it doesn't matter, 3 hours. And then later on have like a 5 hour, and then have an overnight.
Mhm.
Give the people the options to say, I like this, I don't like that.
Okay, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
and I think- Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
no, I mean, it gives us, it gives us good supporting documentation for Terry, and it gives us a better view of what the populace actually thinks, and it also gives a better view to the populace as to what we're even thinking about.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think maybe if in the question you said similar to, and give them at least, one or two other examples,
Mhm.
so they can, or I mean, I don't know if in our, the pictures, I don't know how we want to do that, but I think it's good to
Yeah.
have associate each of those with, like so-and-so does.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a survey is good for education and feedback.
Interesting point, yeah.
And then once that's done, and the survey should say, and I think it's important that we do this, we plan a public meeting and then have the survey also say that, okay, these are the things that we're talking about, and we'll be more than happy to address questions and whatnot in this public meeting. So you give them the education, do the definitions, you do the survey portion, and then you also introduce the fact that, okay, now that we've done all this, we'll take this information and let's talk about it in this public Zoom meeting. What does that feel like to everybody?
Sounds good. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. So to do a survey first and then like report back on
Yeah.
at the Zoom meeting on the results of the survey.
Right.
And let people ask questions and provide their ideas and input.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. I am concerned that it not just in essence be a whole meeting where no one has any idea, or everyone
Right.
keeps thinking about this, and this would narrow it down considerably. And
Yes.
so each part of the meeting is going to address one of the questions in the survey.
Mhm.
Give the feedback, you can ask questions, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I like it.
And typically, I mean, you'll see the county and commissions and things do this. Well, they will send out ahead of the meeting. Here are our documents. Here's the surveys we've done. Yada yada. Okay, now let's get together and dive into this. So I think it would help that doing it in that kind of form.
I don't follow the deadlines as closely as I probably should for the tome. What are the deadlines for the December tome?
There will not be a December tome.
Well, that makes it easier. I guess we don't have to get this in there then, do we?
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
we do have the website and we do have Brown Betty.
Yes.
This would probably be a good, I like that for Brown Betty, because if we don't have a tome that month, then that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and most, not all, but most do subscribe to getting the emails and stuff like that. But and we can also post a notice up on Nextdoor that brings them to the website. The detailed information.
Yeah, and if someone's got a Facebook account, I guess there's a Lummi Island Facebook group too.
Yeah.
I'm not a doer of that. I'm
Yeah,
not
there's
a-
multiple. There's multiple. I can do that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't catch me on Facebook.
I can post stuff down at the store as well. And
Mhm.
I mean, I'm happy to go run the ferry line for any information gathering, anything like that. I wouldn't
Yeah,
mind
I've
interacting
done,
with people face to face, and
I've
I don't
done that in the
solicit for anything
past
else,
too,
but
and
I
I
will for
think it's
this.
important. Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah,
the only thing I would say, I don't know if everybody's seen the chat question that the thing he put up in chat. I would say not, would you prefer? It should be more of, are you in favor of?
yeah, I'm just throwing out things that I'm thinking up as we're talking
Mm.
here, just so I've got them down and just to prime the pump is all I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
Because these
yeah.
are questions that I'm thinking out in my mind. Okay, what
Oh,
would
yeah.
I want to be asked about? And this is what I would want to know. So
Mhm. Yep.
yeah, somebody more wordy is better than me at it for sure is welcome to do it. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing it out there.
Yeah, these are good questions. And Lane, are you grabbing these?
I am.
Okay, cool. You're so good.
And I have a feeling that with the, if we ask a design question,
Yeah,
be accompanied by some pictures or links to check another county that has that. I
Yeah.
know. Well, I mean, now if I'm thinking about it, an L is so funny to me when you said L shape, because I was assuming this L was a flat two-dimensional L. And I was like, how will that work? So
Yeah.
I think
No.
a diagram at a minimum.
Yeah, yes, exactly, exactly. And these and all of this really is, it's really up to Parks and Recreation as to what they actually build.
It
And
is,
of
yeah.
course, based on survey and engineering and all that happy stuff, and weather, and you know, whether they're willing to do a breakwater. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that's associated with this. But the only thing I would say, Lane, is links aren't
No,
a good idea.
no,
You're
it'll take
better
them away
off.
from the survey. They'll never come back. Yeah.
Right. We want a picture that says, okay, Sinclair Island has this,
Yeah.
and here's a picture. You know, so and so, this island has this kind of facility, and here's the picture. As soon as you link them off, 90% of the people will not go to the link, first of all. And then if they do go to the link, they go down that rabbit hole and we'll never see them back on the page. So, because I do that all the time. I go down those rabbit holes.
Oh, and it's not on purpose. Just kind of forget. Next thing you know, you're
exactly.
on the boat or something. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's better we present some photos. That's why I was really hot to trot on us making that field trip and doing some of our own photos that suit our purposes. And to do that, you know, it's relatively soon. And come up with a, you know, it would be good because is to like know which docks do have short-term only, some that have, okay, short-term and medium term. I'm just using a vagary here. And then how many, you know, who has long-term as well. And then visit those docks and see how do they present that data or that information or control that usage for those docks. And if we can convey that information along with it, that helps people say, oh, okay, this is what you're talking about, you know, for short term, and this is how it might work. That helps them make an educated decision on, yes, I would support this option.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I think another important question is going to be how many boats.
Yeah.
Space for how many flips or something like that.
Well,
4 to 6, 6 to 12.
And is it really slips or is it just side dock?
Yeah.
Those are also, that's a very good question. And that's really, that's again a preference thing. I like, would you be interested in? Because it depends really on what the county decides they can afford, and B, makes sense to them. We're just advising.
I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah, and
I'll be content with getting anything at this point. Something I
Well,
can
yeah.
pull up, you know, 10
Yep.
footer. I don't care.
Yeah.
If that's all that they were willing to do, it is better than what we got now.
Oh, absolutely.
and the other thing is the bigger the linear feet of the dock is, the potential for the bigger and heavier boat you have. And that
Yeah.
makes a huge difference in engineering
Mhm.
of what the anchoring and all of the construction do. So if you're looking at a dock that would be like for boats like 25 feet and less, or,
Well,
you know, I
it's,
don't know.
it's that, and how much is their draft? You know, you know, I doubt that you would have enough water there for like a sailboat to come up to.
It depends on the state of the tide.
Yeah, yeah, but you know, those sort of things are all part of that equation.
Mhm.
I want to bring up one thing, and I didn't study all the details, but I think it's on the link I provided in the Google Doc. There are funding sources out there for, I believe it was 26 foot and under boat docks versus larger boats.
Mhm.
So I want to be careful, and I don't want to restrict necessarily the size of the boat, but if there's a pile of money, and I seem to recall something like $14 million in the state reserve for this, for a 26 foot or less, I say that's how we argue this. What I would definitely avoid doing is talking about quote unquote a marina. I think what we want to do is focus on something like, for example, the East Sound County Dock. That's very small, but it gives access. People can raft up if need be. We're not talking about, we don't want to blow this thing out of proportion, right?
Right. Right.
And make it some grandiose project, because our
Yeah.
chances of getting it approved, even at a minimum project, I think,
Go
is
down.
challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion. And I think I'd be happy to dig in a little bit more to the funding sources, because there was a distinction there.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I mean, the reason in my mind it's not a marina, period, is a marina takes land-based facilities and infrastructure. We don't have that land there.
We are a boat dock committee, not a boat marina committee.
No, but what I'm saying is you couldn't even do it there.
Right.
The only place where there's actual land available is the public works land, not Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation only has that small little, so there's no place for infrastructure for like for a marina. You just couldn't do it there. It just wouldn't work really.
Yeah, that's all what we're about. So.
Yep.
No worries.
I do.
Yeah.
Chris, I do like your question on configuration though, because I think the question of a straight dock versus an L or a T is an important one. To me, having at least a dog leg where a boat can moor on the inside of the passage to help prevent wave action would be a good thing. Right? It's not critical, it's not essential, but it would certainly be a benefit. Like think about the fuel dock at Blakely, for example, right? You can be right on the pass, a P-Vine pass or whatever it is, obstruction pass, or you can be on the inside and get some protection for a short-term fueling up, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing to even talk about in definition when you say, all right, a straight dock versus an L dock versus a T dock. What are the advantages to these? What do they mean to people? The more you can give the public information to make an educated opinion about, the better.
Yeah. I think we could make arguments there, some
Mhm.
arguments there, so.
And I think the other thing that would be important in that also would be the orientation of the dock. If you were coming out straight from the land and you had a T shape, you would be at least south and north more. It would be better than going across that, just
Yeah.
by the prevailing winds. It's either
Mm.
usually southerlies or northerlies, and you would have better, the dock would be not broadside to the winds that much.
Yeah,
But it would be subject to more wake action in hill
Mm.
passage.
Which can be significant, right?
It can be.
mhm.
Maybe we need a lazy L.
So in any design that they come up with, ultimately, do we need to preface any question that we have about design with the fact that ultimately this is out of our hands? This is some suggestions that we'd like to make, but ultimately it's up to the county to decide, or the Parks Department to decide
That
exactly what would work there best.
that needs to be in a banner across the top on anything that we put out, is that we are an advisory committee. What actually happens is up to Parks and Recreation. That's it. We can only advise. So it's, but I think giving them all this information, I think is great, because like I was thinking, Chris, I mean, you've done this run, and so has Rob, in not the greatest of scenarios. So, input as to what shape dock to the county, to Parks and Recreation, I think is a good thing to do. And then they're, discussing that, hey, if you do a T, you have more. Again, I'm not a mariner. My father was a ship's captain, but he said, that's the one thing he said, was you will not become a ship's captain. I don't know nothing other than draft. But we could talk about, okay, an L shape gives you this amount of access, in why it's good or bad or whatever, and a T shape gives you X more or less access and why it's good, what the advantages of each type are. And I think if we ask the questions on what type of use the people that are in favor of it are, if we asked, what would your use be?
Mhm.
That's an important question. Like me, I don't have a boat. Used to, but I don't. And it's, but people who do, what do they want it for? Oh, I want it, to be able to pull my boat up and have people get on board real quick so we can go off, exploring the islands or something. Or I want it for shopping, or these kind of answers to public works, to Parks and Recreation, I think will really help them. Besides asking, are you in favor of this? What is your use case? What would you like to use it for? And we also I think, should put in their fishing as a question.
Mhm.
One of the
Use it
questions,
for recreational purposes, crabbing.
Mhm.
right, like
fishing.
kayaks or paddle boards.
Yeah. And for that, you need a lower dock, unless I'm nuts. Or at least a section that's lower so you can get to the.
Mhm.
Yeah,
to
whatever the
kayaks.
final float is, that naturally has to be low. It's, yeah. The pier to it is going to be up higher, and then
Mhm.
floating dock, the long
Yeah,
gangway.
but I think we need to explain that, because some people think of docks and they think of Bellingham, and those don't. There might be some. I haven't walked out there, but a
You're
dock
thinking
in
commercial docks.
yeah, most people think of a dock, it's high above the water and you got a big ass boat, you know, parked next to it. So we need to define some of this stuff too, that, hey, we're talking smaller boats, we're talking kayaks, we're talking canoes,
So would
paddle
pictures of the
boarders.
ghosty docks in the San Juans work? Like, I know we can get a picture of the one at Mesha. It's just a straight shot. The one at
Mhm.
Sound is an L shape. Whatever else, you have some other ones out there too.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
saying we should go get pictures. Pictures that are online that we don't necessarily have the rights to use. We do need to be careful of that.
How do you verify whether they're publicly accessible and usable?
It's a hassle. It's a hassle doing it. You need give Nick a moment here to. It's not worth the hassle. It's easier just to go take your own pictures.
Gotcha.
I do think it would be very beneficial for us to offer access for kayaks, small boats, rowboats, what have you.
Mhm.
And maybe that means, you know, you might have a float adjacent to the dock as well, right? Something like that.
Mhm.
A low profile float. But,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but I think it gets back to, I can't remember who brought it up. Maybe it was you, Mary, or Lane. Sort of benefits to the island or community that don't have, say, larger boats.
Mhm.
Gives access to the waterfront, fishing off the dock, crabbing off the dock, maybe. I don't think we want to discount that.
Yeah.
I think that's huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
how many of you guys have used the waterfront access park? You have, Alan.
Mhm.
I know, well,
I've used it for a couple cleanups down on the beach. That's all that I've used
Yeah.
it. I don't go down there because I go
Yeah,
to
never
Isle
reputation.
Beach.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I would not define that as a beach.
right. It's not that
Mhm.
attractive, really. I
No,
mean,
no.
in my opinion.
Yeah, unless it's low tide, it's not a beach in my
Mhm.
opinion. But I was going to add, I mean, one of the many things I'm personally am interested in is radio control stuff. I
Oh.
have a radio control boat.
Ooh, that's a good
You
idea.
know, I would love to have a low float to be able to put that thing in the water. And I have built radio controlled sailboats.
Hmm.
And you know, those kind of things. So there's a plethora of possible uses for this kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. That I think makes it highly attractive as an enhancement to the parks and recreation beach access, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which we want to promote. And I hadn't even
Okay,
thought
so
of that one, Alan, the RC, that's cool.
I've got a ton of notes here, so this is just real good, and I'm gonna collaborate with you, Lane, on this too.
Yeah.
well, if you guys see a sunny day out there and it's nice, you know, give me a call if you want to go out and take pictures at Mesha or East Sound. I mean, I'll bomb over there real quick and we'll get some pictures real quick, because that sounds like something we need to get done so we can add it to our questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think it's more of, let's look, somebody needs to keep an eye on what the weather forecast is. And if there's a window opening, we do it.
Yeah.
Well, there was red
Okay.
sky tonight, very red sky over Orcas, so most likely it's gonna be nice tomorrow. So if anybody
Yeah.
wants to go, it's nice. Who knows how to operate a camera? I can use my cell phone. That's about it.
No, I have more than enough to bring cameras.
Well, just let me know because I'm available. So
Okay,
My forecast says 60% rain tomorrow, sunny, partially sunny Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
yeah, it's not the sun as much as it is the winds.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
we-
it. I don't mind even getting wet, but I want calm.
Yeah, that's the
want
important thing.
flat.
It's hard to take a picture when the boat's going.
All right. Well, what can we do now? What else do we need to talk about tonight?
I think that's it. If we can start coming up with questions and definitions, so we can let people know what it is we're talking about, get the verbiage right. That will help us. We can look at I can draft up, the potential questions for a questionnaire. There is a section of the website that is specifically for stuff works in progress that is not public, that is easy to have you all access to. Mary has access to it. Lane, actually, you have access too. Chris is the only one I'll have to double check. But Dave and Nick, all I need to do is get you a sign in, and you can see all this stuff.
Okay.
There's actually a lot going on the website behind the scenes. But I can set aside a little area just for this kind of project.
Alan, do you want us to try and craft up some questions, or?
I think that'd be the first thing.
And how many questions do you think is reasonable for a poll?
I wouldn't ask that. I wouldn't bother with that. Just come up with the questions, then we'll figure it out.
Don't limit. It's like that rule for brainstorming,
Never limit yourself.
don't limit yourself. And then once we have a good list of questions, we can
Pare it down.
pare it down.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way of doing it.
You're better off just brainstorming. Don't worry about the how at all.
Yeah, okay.
Great. We'll all work on that. I'll contribute more as well. In regards to next Sunday, I'm just going to be out of town, so I'm not going to be available for this meeting. I'll be up in the mountains playing. So
Good for you.
I probably won't have cell reception.
Well, you're not normally available on Sundays, are you?
Well, it's Sunday evening right now, isn't it?
It's Sunday right now.
No, I mean during daylight.
Oh. I'm always doing something. Always got
Yeah,
something
I know.
fun.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going over to Liberty, Washington and playing for the weekend. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be gone.
Good for you.
Poor guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Someone's got to
Yeah.
suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary,
Go ahead.
Mary, maybe you and I, we have family here this week, but I could take some time off if you and I want to get together on just even Zoom on,
Okay.
say, Wednesday or Thursday, just so that we can look at whether we can use those pictures right now or not. I think they're placeholders for what we want
Okay.
to represent. And I'd
Yeah.
rather go ahead and do that so that we have that kind of
Okay.
going.
Yeah, I'm gonna check my calendar right now. And let's just set something up, because that is the
Okay.
best way to get me.
You're talking Thursday this week or next week? Because Thursday is
Oh,
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. She's Louise. No, not Thanksgiving.
Hello. But yeah, you mentioned placeholders. Placeholder images are fine.
Yeah.
Like if we cease, as long as I keep them off public, we can put as many placeholders as we want, and then we can say, okay, now let's go get those.
Okay.
Because they might be close to what we want, but not exactly. But yeah, placeholding stuff in the private sections of the development side of the website is never a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of toast on this Wednesday, Lane, because this is like, I coordinate the wreath sale and the wreath making for the Heritage Trust fundraiser.
Gosh.
And
Okay.
so on
What about-
Wednesday, we're doing our gathering greens and stuff like that, and getting
Got it.
stuff arranged for that. I
What
could
about
do it
Friday?
possibly in the evening. Would an evening meeting on Wednesday work for you?
Well, what about Friday?
Friday? During the day could work
Okay.
for me on Friday. What time would you like
Yeah,
to get together?
afternoon is probably usually a little better.
Okay. What about 1 o'clock
1 o'clock.
or 12 o'clock?
Actually a little later. What's your latest time?
Probably 2. I could probably go between 2 and 4.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, 2 to 4,
Sure.
okay,
And if you all have a question during that period of time and want to call me,
Yeah.
you can, because I'm
Okay.
open. I'm open. So if you have a question.
Okay.
how about you, Dave, are you open at all?
Yeah, I think I'll be
2
around.
to 4 on Wednesday?
2 to 4?
Friday.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
Friday?
sorry, on Friday.
Friday's better.
Do
Okay,
you have any work, any consulting stuff going on then?
probably.
Okay, well, I don't want to zap that, but,
I'll put you guys on my calendar first. How's that?
okay, well, I'll pop you on the calendar. I'll set up, do we want to do it over Zoom? That's probably the best, yeah,
I guess so.
okay.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, I'll set up a meeting. And I'll send invites out to Alan, Lane, and Dave. Okay, no, that sounds great.
awesome.
And that will be for going over images that we have.
And questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that can get me started on thinking on how to structure.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay. And Chris and Nick, if you want to, zap any questions to us between now and then, that would be great. And then we can just start doing a kind of a synthesis through those. And then we'll have
Wonderful.
something to talk about next week. Do we want to meet next Sunday?
well, since Chris isn't available, I was gonna actually ask do we want to shift this from Sunday? I may have been one of the ones responsible for asking to have this meeting on a Sunday, because I think I had a conflict way back when. But maybe there's a better day? Is that, I don't know. What do people think?
As soon as you get into the middle of the week, like especially Mondays and Tuesdays, you wind up running against actually Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You wind up running against other organizations
Oh, yeah, okay.
if it's the evening.
Yeah.
And of course, day it's people are working.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's tough, because I do Zoom meetings for several
Everybody.
organizations. Yeah, and so I have to balance all those meetings plus some family time too.
And
So-
you have a life. You have a life too.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
never
this
mind.
works best for me too. If
Yeah.
if we can keep it at this is my favorite. So
Yeah, it really is it's a non-conflicting time for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's generally good for me too, because I try not to work on the website much or for other organizations on Sundays. This is more of a me day. So it's a good one for me.
Okay,
okay.
but Chris, you're out next Sunday, so do we not meet then? Or do we do an email update? What do we want to do?
Well, we could still meet.
Yeah, okay.
And if we want to meet, we could meet, and then Chris can always watch the video. That's the glory and wonder of being able to record the meetings so easily.
yeah,
That makes sense.
love it.
And we
So,
have a fair number of the public that has been watching them as well.
Oh, good.
So,
Yes,
you
we
know,
do.
they're keeping an eye on how we're doing and where we're at and so. And it's good. It's a good way of doing it.
Great. Okay.
All right.
okay,
Well, it sounds good, folks. I'll miss you next Sunday. I'll look forward to the recording. I will email you more things this week, hopefully. And
Okay.
man, fantastic work once again. Lane, especially you. You really knocked it out of the park with all you did for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it hopefully gives people, like someone wrote me a note and says a good framework. And I like that because that's what I think you got to have. You can't,
Yeah, it's
it's really hard
wonderful.
to ask people for input without that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to gel to get that framework. And
bet.
that's why I think meeting like this every week has really helped us do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then getting the input that we've gotten so far from organizations and people.
Yeah. And
so.
Lane, I wanted to ask you real quick, that the general emergency planning document that
Yeah.
you were looking at, my sister-in-law just retired from being like the director of emergency management for Butte County in California.
Yeah.
And I could try to see if she would be willing to look it over, if that would be helpful.
Well, it's kind of funny. What's her name?
Cindy Dunsmore.
Cindy. I think I've met her.
may
Because
have.
I was with Search and Rescue at Nevada County, and we did a lot of work with Butte, including Campfire.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
And
yeah.
So a lot of that
Yeah,
comes
she was the lead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
FEMA person and everything. Yeah.
Yes. So, and our old boss from Nevada County still helps us out too. So thank you. So I think we took that from our training materials to our organization, which hopefully are
Mhm.
reasonably up to snuff. But the only feedback I've gotten so far was from Tim. So we'll wait and see. But I think priority wise now to move along with all that we're doing, I think we'll let that kind of sit right now and just see.
Okay. But
Thank you.
I'm glad to ask her because she
Yeah.
was in the trenches. So
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
mhm.
All right. Well, thank you all once again. And I'm
Yeah.
headed off. So have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you, boss.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
night.
Okay. We'll see people on Friday then.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
End recording.
Yep.